With Roman Reigns rumored to return at SummerSlam this year, I decided to bring him back early to form the OG Bloodline with Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Sami Zayn, and special counsel Paul Heyman. Now they will be going up against the new Bloodline in The Rock, Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and Jacob Fatu, with Tonga Loa serving as their manager to see which Bloodline faction is the most dominant faction in WWE history. And the only way to determine that is by having the OG Bloodline on the blue brand and have the new Bloodline on the red brand and see which faction can collect the most gold by the end of the Shows of Immortals WrestleMania. And starting off on week 3 of July episode of Friday Night SmackDown, the Usos will go up against the OC and pick up the win, while Roman Reigns will go up against former rival John Cena and lose to him, which will lock Roman Reigns into a rivalry with John Cena. And in the main event of the night, Sami Zayn will go up against Logan Paul for the US title, which Logan Paul will pick up the win and retain his United States title. Well, it looks like since Sami had to vacate his IC title over there on Monday Night Raw, they decided to start him off right with a US title match, which unfortunately he did lose in. So it's looking bad for Sami right now. And now moving on to week 4 episode of Monday Night Raw in the month of July, Solo Sikoa and The Rock will only be seen on the card for the night to represent the new Bloodline, and they would both pick up their win in their matches, which would also lock them into a rivalry with their opponents. Well, it looks like Solo and Dom are in a rivalry now, while The Rock is locked into a rivalry with Ilya Dragunov as well. And while we just got our first look at each Bloodline faction in action, this is where each superstar ranks in the championship division for the chase to gold. Now this is the month of August, and the Usos will continue to pick up wins against the OC, while Sami would finally pick up his first win against Ashanti the Adonis. And on the second to last match of the card on the same night, Roman Reigns and John Cena would have a no contest due to both superstars brawling without the bell even ringing. Now it is the PLE SummerSlam, and in the opener, The Rock with Tonga Loa ringside will pick up the win against Ilya Dragunov, ending their rivalry, while Solo Sikoa with Tama Tonga at ringside as well loses to Dominic Mysterio, also ending their rivalry. And the last member to be featured on the card is an OG Bloodline member in Roman Reigns, and he is going up against John Cena, which he also loses to Cena, and finally ending their rivalry as well. Well, it looks like neither of the Bloodline faction won any gold yet, so the trophy for who is the most dominant faction in WWE history is still up for grabs. And with that still being the looming question, for the rest of the month of August, the new Bloodline will go 7-2, and we would finally see Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga in action, while the OG Bloodline would go 9-0 with the Usos leading the charge. Now it is the month of September, and we are at the next PLE, which is Payback, and the only member for the new Bloodline that is on the card is Solo Sikoa with Tama Tonga once again ringside. And he's going up against Karrion Kross with Scarlett in his corner, and Kross picks up the win against Solo Sikoa. And for the OG Bloodline, the Usos and Roman Reigns will be featured on the card, but the Usos are getting a tag team championship match against Pretty Deadly in an Extreme Rules match, while Roman Reigns is going up against Shinsuke Nakamura in a normal match. And with Roman Reigns beating Shinsuke Nakamura in the normal match, the Usos would also pick up a huge win against Pretty Deadly to capture the SmackDown tag titles, putting the OG Bloodline up 1-0 in the challenge. And just like that, the OGs are up 1-0 in today's challenge. But the question is, can they keep it up though? And with the OG Bloodline taking the lead in today's challenge, for the rest of the month of September, both the new and the OG Bloodline will go 7-2 in the win-loss record, which is the same record for the new Bloodline that they had last month, but it's 2 losses and a few wins down for the OG Bloodline based off their last month record. But now it is the first Raw of the month of October, and out of nowhere, the new Bloodline and Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu have an opportunity to tie the series 1-1 because they have a triple threat tornado tag match against the champs in the Judgment Day, as well as the other challengers, the Creed brothers. But with this being a triple threat tornado tag match, the Judgment Day will retain their tag titles by pinning Brutus Creed. And it looks like there won't be a tie in this series as of right now because one of the Creed brothers took the loss. While over on the SmackDown brand, the OG Bloodline will go 1-1-1 to kick off the month, as well as we head into the next PLE, Fastlane. And just like that, it looks like The Rock is in the main event in a potential championship match. Oh, the Usos are defending their titles against Pretty Deadly in a rematch. The Rock is not even in a championship match. It's just a last man standing match against Ilya Dragunov for probably like the 17th time. And although The Rock is not in a title match in the main event, the Usos are going up against Pretty Deadly, and they successfully retain their tag titles while The Rock wins the last man standing match against Ilya Dragunov. Now it is the Raw after Fastlane, and The Rock is granted a title match in the main event against the champion Seth Rollins and also Damian Priest in a triple threat match, which unfortunately Seth Rollins retains. Wow, The Rock couldn't beat those jabronis, and we still have yet to see Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns compete for the titles in their divisions. And for the rest of the month, Roman Reigns and The Rock will lead their faction on an impressive 8-1 win-loss record, which would finally give Roman Reigns a title shot in the first week of the month in November. Okay, just like that. Now, can Roman Reigns with Paul Heyman ringside beat Cody Rhodes and capture the WWE title once again to go up 2-0 in today's challenge? Let's find out. And while these two were putting on a classic 5-star rematch, Cody Rhodes would be the one to once again pull out the victory by hitting 3 crossroads on Roman Reigns. Looks like Cody completed his story for the second time with those crossroads, but at least the faction is still in the lead, right? And while the OG Bloodline is still on top in this challenge, they will go on a historically low 3-7 win-loss record for the rest of the month, with honorary Sami Zayn being the blame for every loss, while the new Bloodline will go 8-2 for the rest of the month, with Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu picking up half the wins. And this will lead them into a Raw tag title match against the Judgment Day on Monday Night Raw in the first week of December, which unfortunately once again they lose to the Judgment Day. Man, these two can't manage to capture the goal even if you put it in front of them. This is just getting pathetic at this point. And with Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga losing once again, on the third week of Raw in the month, The Rock with Tongaloa in his corner is getting another shot at the World Heavyweight Championship against Seth Rollins. And now this is the first time that the same faction were granted title matches in 1 month. Can The Rock tie this thing up though? Let's find out. And with The Rock and Seth Rollins putting on a show in the main event, The Rock hit a huge rock bottom on Seth Rollins to capture the World Heavyweight Championship to now finally tie the series 1-1. Looks like we have a tie, ladies and gentlemen. Before we even head into the year 2025, things are getting interesting. And while we now have a tie in today's challenge, the new Bloodline will stay steady in the win-loss column by going 11-2 for the rest of the month, as well as in January, while the OG Bloodline will finally get back on track in the win-loss column by going 12-2 for the month and also in January. And while we are at the end of the month in January, on week 4 episode of SmackDown, Roman Reigns would once again be granted a WWE title match against the newly champion Carmelo Hayes. Wait, when did Melo win the title? Oh, at the November PLE. I believe that was what, Survivor Series, if I'm not mistaken. But let's see if Roman Reigns can uneven the series and help his faction retake the lead in today's challenge. Let's find out, ladies and gentlemen. And with Hayes being a young upcoming star, he doesn't allow that to happen as he retains this WWE title against Roman Reigns before we head to the next PLE, the Royal Rumble. Wait, Melo beating Roman Reigns is kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know about that now. Now we are at the Royal Rumble, and in the opener, the Usos defend their titles against the Street Profits, which they retain. And for the Men's Royal Rumble, Bobby Lashley wins, which means he will be facing the WWE Champion at WrestleMania 41. Oh, it's not looking too good for Roman Reigns right now, because with Bobby Lashley winning the Royal Rumble, he will be main eventing WrestleMania and facing the WWE Champion, which is on SmackDown. And Roman Reigns is most likely going to have to win their title at Elimination Chamber or on an episode of SmackDown. Not only that, but Sami Zayn haven't competed for the US title since the beginning of the video, and Solo Sikoa haven't even gotten an opportunity to face for the IC title over there on Raw. Now we are in the month of February, and on week 3 episode of Raw, Solo Sikoa would pick up a huge win against the IC champion Braun Breaker, while The Rock would also retain his world title in the main event against Damian Priest. And on the same week on an episode of Friday Night SmackDown, SmackDown, Sami Zayn would pick up a major win against the US champion Logan Paul, while Roman Reigns and the Usos have the night off. Now we are at the PLE Elimination Chamber, and Solo, Sami, and The Rock are all featured on the card in a championship match. While The Rock retains his world title against Seth Rollins, Solo Sikoa and Sami Zayn would both lose their championship match, leaving the challenge tied at 1-1. We literally have 2 months left until this challenge is up, and we are still tied 1-1. And with 2 months remaining, we are in the month of March, which the new Bloodline and the OG Bloodline would go 11-3 in the win-loss column record, leading us all the way to the month of April, which the Usos are defending their titles against the OC before WrestleMania 41. I'm not gonna lie, the Usos had these tag titles for a long time, for like what, 194 days, and it's only been 1 reign. But the question is now, can they retain against this stacked OC group? And with me saying that, I must have jinxed it, because the OC would defeat the Usos and become the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Well, every reign must come to an end, and unfortunately though for the Usos, their title reign came to an end only 1 week before WrestleMania 41. While the Usos lost their gold, on the Raw Go Home show to WrestleMania 41, Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu would be granted another tag title opportunity against the Judgment Day. This is crazy. This is like their 3rd or 4th time fighting for these tag titles on Raw. Now, can they finally capture the gold to take the lead in today's challenge? And unfortunately again, Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga would lose to the Judgment Day in their 4th title match. Well, it looks like we are still tied at 1-1 heading into SmackDown before WrestleMania 41. And with SmackDown being the final stop, Jey Uso and Roman Reigns would be the only 2 from the OG Bloodline to show up and win their matches. And with this series still being tied 1-1, WrestleMania 41 could potentially determine which faction is the most dominant Bloodline faction in WWE history. And with it now being WrestleMania 41, Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu are the only ones out of both factions that are competing for gold in a fatal 4-way tag team championship match to determine whether the new Bloodline is the most dominant faction between the 2 in WWE history. Oh wow, it's the 5th time that these 2 been granted a tag team title match, but can they do it? Can they break this tie to claim to be the best faction between the 2 in WWE history? Let's find out, ladies and gentlemen. And after so many attempts, the new Bloodline gets granted another opportunity and finally picks up the win to seal the deal as the most dominant Bloodline faction in WWE history. Now let's be honest here, the current Bloodline faction is not better than the OG Bloodline faction in WWE history. I believe The Rock abused his power and gave the faction another opportunity at WrestleMania 41. So if you would like to see a part 2 leading into the year 2026 with The Rock not on the board with TKO, drop a like and subscribe, and comment down below, sub Rock got to go, and we would take him from the board of direction and run it back immediately.